Evening, Sword Family. Welcome to the Teahouse. Tonight, we're going to be discussing a topic that friend of the channel, Dan Hollifield, suggested. And we're going to be talking about Chinese military archery. More specifically, this book, The Way of Archery. But first, as always, go through the comments. And first through the door is, as almost always, is my lovely Foxy. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Teahouse. Yes. And there is Indy CD, my one and only patron. Good evening, Foxy. Going to be heading back to the computer to watch shortly. And that came in about half an hour ago. So, yeah, plenty of time. No, well, yeah. Plenty of time, yeah. And there is Kitty. Evening all. Evening, Kitty. And Foxy greeting Kitty. And there is Aunt Donna. Hey, everybody. Hello, Aunt Donna. And Foxy greeting Donna. And there is the lovely Trey, who is now the proud owner of a couple of pieces that I recently made, including the piece of calligraphy that I drew last Saturday. But I just published the video yesterday because I wanted to make sure that the piece was in her hand before I published the video so that it could be at least a little bit of a surprise. And Donna greeting Trey, and Foxy greeting Trey. And there's Uncle Carl. Hello, everybody. Hello, Carl. And Donna greeting the Whitman dude. And Foxy greeting Carl. And Trey saying hello. And there's the man himself. Good evening, Dan. I hope that at least a few people will go and find more of your music just because of that calligraphy video. I know, before anyone says anything, the music was a little bit loud. Not really a whole lot I could do about it. It was really, really quiet when I first started, and I kind of overplayed it a little bit. I turned it up too high. It didn't sound that loud until I was editing the video, and then there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it, so now I know for next time. And there is Joe greeting everyone. And Foxy greeting Dan. Trey greeting Dan. And Donna greeting Dan and Joe. And Dan is having a bit of a thunderstorm, so if he gets disconnected, that's why. Okay. Well, there's reruns. And there's Donna doing my job. Don't forget to like and share, folks. Yes. I don't have a whole lot of subscribers, and most of them are obviously in the chat right now. But if you could, throw us a like, subscribe, share it around, so maybe eventually someday I might actually get up to, 50 subscribers. And Kitty saying showtime. Yes, indeed. And Foxy, greetings. All right, so The Way of Archery. Justin Ma and Jie Tian went and found a 1637 Chinese military training manual. They translated it into English, They added pictures, but most of the book is just a direct translation of a military training manual from a man named Gao Ying. Gao Ying was originally, I think he was a bureaucrat, actually. And he wanted to perfect archery so that he could better protect his country. He is a Tang Dynasty politician and served as a chancellor. But he wanted to be able to protect his emperor, his country. So he wrote a military archery manual. Now, you can probably tell behind me, I have several different bows back there. And before we get into the Chinese bows, first we need to discuss the differences with a modern recurve bow. So I'm sure most people have seen one of these. It has an arrow rest. This is a right-handed bow, so the arrow rest is on the inside. If it were left-handed, arrow rest would be on the other side, because you're, firing from inside your body. Most people who use this kind of bow use the 3-finger or split finger method, where the arrow is going to sit in between and you draw. To string one of these, you can use one of these. It's a bow stringer. It has these pieces of leather on both ends, and you slip the larger end onto your string. Is going to have 2 different sizes of loops on them. It's going to have a larger size and it's going to have a smaller size. So you slip the larger end onto the end of the bow with the larger loop. You slip the small end onto the end with the smaller loop. And then you're going to step on the center of this, pull the bow up, and then you can slide the loops onto the knot. There we go. You slide the loops onto the end of the notches on your bow. I'm sure that most people have seen something like this. You slip the ends onto your fingers, wrap that piece around secure it. This is for, 3-finger draw. And this, you can probably tell if you're paying attention. This is too short. This is Foxy's glove. But you have leather on the inside to protect your fingers or when you're drawing the bow. That one's mine. It hasn't actually gotten a whole lot of use since I started doing Gaoying archery. I have my bracer. I'm not going to try and put this thing on because the lacing is very tight. I'd have to take my watch off. But I'm sure you can, understand how something like this works. Your thumb goes in here. This is going to be on the wrist. There's extra padding right here to protect the webbing on your fingers. We got some comments here. Dan says, I never did get very good with a bow, but it was part of my childhood in the Smoky Mountains. Yes. I love my bows. And I'm actually remarkably disappointed that I haven't actually gotten much chance to actually shoot them. I got my first Han bow. Get down there. Right before COVID hit. So during most of that time, I didn't go to the archery range at all. And then by the time COVID was over, the range was, technically it's still there. But when we used to go shooting with the modern recurves, there's a wooden frame with a big piece of leather on there, and then 3 or 4 hay bales stacked on top of it, and then a piece of cardboard or something for a target. When I went back after COVID, the leather backing and the frames were still there, but you could tell just by looking at the area that no one had been out there for a while. So unfortunately, I haven't really had a whole lot of opportunity to actually go out and practice my new Chinese military archery. And yes, bowstringers make heavier poundage bows easier to string. That bow, my modern recurve, is a 50 pound. These two are both 40s. So they're a little bit lighter, which is good because the way that you draw them, you could do split finger, but that's not how they did it. So this is my Chinese bow. It's very similar to Mongolian bows, except for the length. This thing easily comes up to my mid-chest. Mongol bows are horse bows. They were mainly used on horseback. So you want something shorter so you're not hitting the horse or dragging it on the ground. Stringing one of these, you could use the bowstringer, but I have found other methods of stringing. My personal favorite, and the string is the same. You have a larger loop and you have a slightly smaller loop. The way that I do it is I keep the smaller loop in the knock. I will then wrap the bow right here around the front of my ankle. Then step in between the string and the bow with the other leg, and you're going to use your hips and your knee to bend the other end of the bow around your body. And once you get it to the right point, you wrap the other string around. You can probably also tell there's no arrow rest. So this can be fired right-handed or left-handed, doesn't matter. But there's a piece of ray skin right here, the top of the handle. That's to protect the sinew, the leather, the bone inside here. And your arrow is going to sit right on this piece of ray skin. Now, another difference between Asian style and, we'll say, Western style is Western style, you're going to knock your arrows on the inside, facing your body. And then draw and fire. And the problem with this is when you're pulling arrows out of a quiver on your back, you have to put the arrow through, then you have to knock it on the inside. And in my opinion, it really is just a more clunky way of putting your arrows, of knocking your bow. You know, it takes more time. I mean, you have to imagine you're being shot at by another army, and you have to pull your arrow out. You have to put it on the other side. And then this happens. See this? When you're drawing, you have to make sure not to let the arrow do that. It's really, really annoying. Meanwhile, the Asian style is on the outside. So, again, you're being shot at by another army. You pull out your arrow, rest it on. See, this is why there's extra padding on that section of the bracer, because your arrow is going to sit right there. It's going to sit on the webbing of your finger. Hold it in place with your finger. Slide down the arrow till you get to the nock. Push forward, set, and there you go. So let's do a little comparison here. We're going to pretend back quiver. Yes, back quivers did exist in history. An arrow is shorter than a sword. You can draw an arrow that's sitting on the seat of my chair. There's that much of the arrow sticking out. So if I reach back, grab the arrow, slide it through, knock, draw, that was kind of slow. Meanwhile, set it back there again. That was quite a bit faster. And again, no arrow rest. So this can be fired just as easily. This is going to be awkward as hell because I'm right-handed, but just as easily by a left-handed person. And again, we'll just pretend for a second that we're doing it on the other side again. So your arrow has to go through the bow. I told you I'm right-handed. This is going to be ugly. Knock it. I can't even really draw with my other hand. This is just... But if you do it on the other side, it's just as simple as 1, 2, 3, draw. This is my other Han bow. I'm not going to shoot the wall. I am going to fire indoors, though, so just a little bit of warning. So, how do you actually draw the bow if you don't use 3 fingers? You're going to use one of these. This is a thumb ring. But unlike this kind of ring, you don't wear it all the way down. What you're going to do, you want to have it basically resting on your first knuckle. And you're not going to wear it this way. That would defeat the entire purpose. You're going to wear it upside down. So you can see there's a little bowl in here. That's for your thumb. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. I'm going to try. See that little divot right there? You see that? Over here? That's where your string is going to sit. So unlike 3-finger or split finger, with this, kind of drawing method, you're spreading all of the strength of the bow between 3 or 4 fingers. But if you're using a thumb ring, it's all on one finger. It is all on your thumb. So, if you're going to start doing thumb ring archery, don't go for the highest poundage bow you can find, because you're going to have to work up to being able to hold that pressure with your thumb. I probably should have started with a lower poundage bow than a 40. But little demonstration. Got my arrow here. Rest it on the webbing. Hold it with the finger. Push it forward. Knock it. Now, just like I said, string sits right in that groove. You wrap your thumb around the string, hold it with your index finger, close your other 3 fingers. Now, that arrow, that ain't going nowhere. You're holding that thing, pinching it between the webbing of your fingers. And then you just draw. That was a horrible knock because the arrow was not straight. That's definitely something that takes some getting used to. Because with an arrow rest, the arrow rests right on that area. So no matter what you do, you're going to have a straight, flat arrow. When you're doing it this way, you have to do it all by yourself. You have to make sure that your arrow is flat and straight. And then you hit your anchor point. And when you want to release, all you have to do is let go with this finger. Because all of that power, all of that energy is held right here. You're holding it with one finger. So all it takes is the slightest little release of this finger, and that arrow's going to go. This particular thumb ring is silver, has some really nice filigree work in it. And it also has these 2 holes in the back. Now, what's that for? That is to run a piece of string or a piece of leather so that when you're not using it, it can hang from your wrist, hang from your belt. So you're not always having to walk around with this thing on. Because it gets in the way. Even just knocking the arrow was kind of a pain in the butt with this thing. Okay, we've got a few comments. Fun fact, carpet works much better for stringing bows. If you're doing it the method that I do it in, yes. Because with hardwood floors, you're going to slide around. The bow's going to gouge the floor. So if you have carpet, if you have padding, the bow can hold still better. But I make it work. Joe says that would be awkward for me too. I'm left-handed only for writing, cutting, and things that shouldn't be mentioned on a live stream. Anything sport related, I'm right-handed. Yeah. I've never actually tried to fire a bow left-handed, but I mean, if I'm going to be demonstrating things, I also want to be able to show that, you know, I screw up too sometimes. Have faith. Yeah, have faith. I'm not going to shoot the wall. I'm going to shoot that right there. Foxy is like that too. Pretty ambidextrous. Yes. But when she shoots a bow, she does shoot right-handed. I have another 50-pound bow. That's another curve. It's hers. But that thing also hasn't been used in quite a while. Really confused my friends that I knew I was left-handed, but shoot pool right-handed, especially when I went to take a left-handed shot and looked like I've never held a pool cue before. Yeah, you just saw me trying to knock an arrow left-handed. That was, yeah. Shaking my head, yes, that he can see. Like he can see me shaking my head. Time for more caffeine. No, we react. We react to, you know, all of the people that we watch. It's just kind of, you react as if you're actually talking directly to them or they can actually see what you're doing. And Foxy is laughing. And Chris Walker is here. Hey, Chris. Yeah. Archery for the win. I love all archery. I mean, I've had that modern recurve for I don't even know how long. I'd probably have to go back and find the pictures I took on my Facebook, but I've had it for a long time. But 3-finger archery, for me, always just felt weird. It just didn't, I don't know, it always felt wrong to me. And firing toward, you know, holding the arrow towards my body, it just, it felt wrong. So when I found out about, you know, Asiatic archery, everything just kind of fit. So, and Foxy greets Chris, and Joe greets Chris, and Donna greets Chris. Everyone's happy to see Chris. Joe doesn't think he would actually have the strength to pull back a bow with his left hand plus right eye dominant. Yeah, that's another thing. If you have an arrow rest on your bow, you have a natural sight because you're able to see where you're aiming. But even with the modern bow, I practiced instinctive archery. Instinctive archery. I have my tea. Wild berry again. I actually have to get rid of some of my old tea before I can start buying new stuff to try. So you're probably going to see a lot of repeats over the next while. But instinctive archery, you do not aim in a traditional sense. You're not going to be and again, because your arrow is on the other side of the bow, you can't look down the shaft of the arrow. Yes, I said shaft. Chibushaluwu. Behave. So on this side, you're not going to be able to look down the arrow to aim. So with instinctive archery, you're going to focus entirely on the target. You're going to look right at the target, draw, and fire. And if you miss, you look at where you missed. Did it pull right? Did it pull left? Did it pull up, down? You look at where you missed, and you make corrections until you hit the target. Instinctive archery is a lot more like meditation. If you've ever seen Japanese archery, it's very, what's the word? It's very ceremonial. It takes time because they're centering and they're focusing their breath. They have these big, huge Yumi bows that are like over 6 feet tall. And that's kind of how I personally think of instinctive archery. It's meditation. When I'm loosing an arrow, I'm not thinking about the target. I'm not thinking about keeping my shoulder down. I'm not thinking about not locking my elbow. You keep the bow elbow loose, your shoulder down. I just knock the arrow, draw, and fire. I'm singularly focused. I don't have to think about all of the steps to get the arrow to the target. It just gets there. And then I see, okay, it pulled right. So next time, when I knock the arrow, I'm going to subtly shift my stance to the left. And then we fire again. That's instinctive archery. And that is also why I have the controversial opinion that compound bows are trash. There's so many moving parts. You are not firing the arrow. The stupid little, I don't even know the word for it. Your fingers are not directly touching the string. If you miss, you can blame every single piece of that bow but you. You can blame the sights. You can blame the pulley. You can blame the release. You can blame the arrow. But with this, there's my lovely co-star, my lovely co-host. With this kind of bow, with this kind of shooting, if you miss the target, there is no one to blame but yourself. You can't blame the bow. It's all on you. And that's why Olympic archery drives me absolutely insane. Because the people firing those bows, they have stabilizers, they have sights, all of these unnecessary things that are just going to give you something else to blame when you miss your target. When you have nothing but the bow and your hand, and you miss, that is all on you. It is all your problem. So you have to correct. Now, something else that I see people do when they go from modern archery to an Asiatic style is they hold the bow too tightly. If your thumb is past the first knuckle of your index finger, you're holding too tight. You want your thumb barely touching. You see that? My thumb is almost off the edge of the handle of the bow. You don't want to grip the bow. Because when your arrow is sitting here, if you're holding it too tightly, when you let go, those feathers are going to tear the inside of your hand to shreds. All this right here is going to get shredded. You want to have a loose grip. And when you draw, don't just draw with this hand. You're going to pull back with this hand, but you're also going to push forward with this hand. They have to work in tandem. Because otherwise, you're going to be holding all 40 pounds on your thumb. If you can spread it out, you push and pull at the same time. And making sure, again, like I just said, this shoulder, you want it down. You don't want your shoulder up like this. You want it relaxed. Same thing with your elbow. Don't lock your elbow. It's just like, I think I mentioned this in one of my earlier streams. When you punch, you don't want to lock. You don't want to lock your elbow. when you punch, don't overextend. That's bad for your elbow. When you punch, see that? My elbow is not completely straight. It's slightly relaxed. So the same thing with your bow hand. You don't want to lock your elbow. Because see that? When my elbow locked, my shoulder immediately came up. So you need that relaxed. Otherwise, you're not straight on the target. You're going to be slightly higher than you need to be. More comments. Dan says, if I remember correctly, Dad's recurve was a 90-pound pull. Yeah. As a kid, I could barely move the string. I think mine was 20 pound. I was only 10 at the time. Yeah, see, the guys that wrote this book, they have a YouTube channel. I will try to remember after this is over to put links to the book, their website, and the YouTube channel. Those guys are pulling war bows. I'm talking 100+ pounds. On some of the videos, they will show you, they'll get one of those scales and attach it to the string and pull it back to show you. I think the biggest one I've seen was 155 pounds. And they're pulling it using, their thumb. These guys are serious. My 40-pound, I can't even do my 50-pound with a thumb draw. I can get close, but I can't get it to full draw. It's amazing to see these people pull 130, 150-pound bows. And they're firing them indoors at a target less than, 3 or 4 feet away. It's impressive. Chris was spoiled, got to see Showtime's Robin Hood between all the archery and swords. I was happy. Yeah. I didn't really get into archery until I was older. I was in my 30s by the time. And then I was even in my mid to late 30s before I started doing, Gao Ying archery. So 8 likes. Let's see if we can get these to double digits. I don't even know if there are double-digit people watching. There are 9 people watching, so I don't know. I don't know if we can get to double digits, but I really don't care. Foxy had enough trouble with a 50. Don't think she could pull a 90. I don't think I could either. Especially not with my thumb. Dad was pretty much Superman. Yeah. Sounds like it. He has opinion. Everyone has opinions. I've expressed my opinions, and I've had people push back on my opinions. Nick doesn't see anything wrong with compound bows. I do. That's just one of the, differences of opinion that we have. And we can discuss our differences in opinion and still be, friendly. We can still be friends, family. It's just a difference of opinion. I happen to think that firearms, guns, have no business being in martial arts. If you want to learn a ranged martial art, learn archery. You don't need guns. But that's not, yeah. Dan's dad was 6 foot tall, 140 pounds, and played center on his high school football team, worked all his life, and didn't lose his football player physique until he was in his 60s. Yeah. Impressive, yes. Farming is good exercise. I imagine so. Yes, it is. Thesis yells at me a lot for locking elbows because mine can also go backwards. Yes, I do. And yes, they can. And that's why I yell at you. I didn't say much when we were first starting out, on an archery journey, because I didn't know much. I was a beginner myself. But now, when we're training together and I see her lock that elbow and I see that elbow go the wrong direction, I have to point it out because she's going to hurt herself. I don't know if I'd say yay hyper flexibility. That's not necessarily a good thing. Yikes, yeah. Hey, we're up to double digits, 11 likes. I like seeing friends do well like it. And I'm glad that you do care, Chris. I'm glad to see people showing up and commenting and listening to all of the things that I have to say. It's nice to see. That was sarcasm. Okay. Hey, Donna's here. Is YouTube eating it must be eating your comments because that was the first one I saw. Anybody else see comments before this one? I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. We have a Dawn, apparently. Okay, nice. Hyper flexibility is a good thing in some instances, but this is not the green room. Yeah, we're not going to get into that one. And Donna greets Dawn. Don't have any comments from Twitch, so there must not be anybody watching, or either there's no one watching or there's no one commenting. So if you're watching over on Twitch, say hello, comment. I want to know that people are watching over there. Hey, Dawn, that's the first one that I've seen. Okay, so I didn't miss anything. That's the first one that Donna saw. And the first one that Joe saw. YouTube has been eating comments even from moderators. I think the only mod here is Foxy. I don't think Kitty's a mod yet. YouTube hungry. I'm sure it is. Now, I said I was going to do something. I probably shouldn't. I want to show you something first before I actually do this. This one does not have the ray skin for the arrow, but I don't even know if you're going to be able to see this. Trying, come on, focus, come on. Right here and on the other side, there are sections where the leather is scuffed. That's from firing this bow. Like I said, I don't know if you can even see that. I don't think you can. Eating some of my comments on Nick's shows lately for some reason. Watch out, chair. Well, couch, but yeah. Little demonstration. I'm sure you can tell. This is one of my homemade targets. I mostly use this for my my throwing weapons. But I've fired a couple of arrows at it. You can tell it's fairly beat up. But we're going to do one short demonstration so that you can see all right. I'm going to put the arrow in my pocket. I have a quiver. It's in the other room. I don't feel like grabbing it and putting it on. But take the arrow using your other 3 fingers. See that? Only using those 3 fingers. Set the arrow, hold it with your finger, slide back, push forward, knock, thumb on the string, wrap the thumb around. Now, start with your bow pointed at the ground. Draw, anchor point, fire. That's it. I don't know if you saw that. When I released, I didn't even have to completely lift my thumb or my finger. I barely lifted off my thumb, and that thing shot. That's how much pressure you're holding with one finger. And it went all the way through. So there you go. That had to grab my chair. Chair! That is Gaoying Chinese military archery. And we are now basically at our hour. The thumb scared Hooli. I'm sure it did. Did I put a hole in it? Maybe. Maybe a little one. The wall is fine. The couch, yeah. You probably saw it on camera, didn't you? Can you see the hole? It's right there. There's a hole in my couch now. Duct tape. Just like the gouges in my ceiling from all of the years of doing, sword forms indoors. If I ever moved the camera up, yeah, there are gouges and marks on the ceiling. That's just one more thing to add to the collection. Get the sewing thread. The last time I did that, it didn't go through. I think I was standing slightly back farther. I think I was a little too close. Oopsie. It is an old couch. It was my parents', and now it's mine. Every piece of furniture that I have in this apartment is, with the exception of those DVD racks, every piece of furniture that I have in this apartment is secondhand, mostly from my parents. All right, so Gaoying Archery. Next show will be September 14th. And 3 days after that, on September 17th, will be 1 year that I've been streaming on YouTube. So, I have decided that the next show, I'm going to redo the Ask Me Anything that I did back in January. So, you have 2 weeks to think of questions. I would prefer that the questions stayed in the realm of Asia, philosophy, history, martial arts, but it's literally called an Ask Me Anything. So, get your questions ready. You got 2 weeks. For I'm going to call it the sword anniversary of the Teahouse. After that, I am very, very highly considering going to an every week show, because I have every Saturday off now. There are a couple of people that I want to talk to first before I make that a concrete plan. But it's definitely something that I'm highly considering. Chef needs to learn upholstery. Okay. For the people who are not privy to this information, oh, wow. I don't have a... Okay. We're going to have to do that real quick because... that should be... Oh, excuse me. That should be in my banners too. There we go. I wrote a second story for Aphelion webzine. You go to that link, you will learn all about Jeff. Just tell people that was a warning shot and they need to behave. Poor couch. Oh, come on, kitty. Couch had it coming. Look at it. It's beige. It should be red or black or some other color. I don't know. Yes, be thinking of things you've always wanted to know about me. I will answer. So just be aware. I will answer anything you ask. So don't ask something that you really don't want to know the answer to, because if you ask me, I will answer it. Just get a couch cover and hide. No, not holes. There's one. There is a hole. Just one. Not multiples. As always, you can check out my photographs, DeviantArt.com/BladedThesis. You can check all of my other links, including links to this show at ndcd.org/about-bladed-thesis. You can join the Sword family at patreon.com/bladedthesis. Or you can buy a shirt at bonfire.com/store/the-teahouse. There's another rip from Hooley's failed attempt to get on the... Okay, all right. Only on the hook for one. Yeah, all right. Good information. I'm glad you thought so. Thank everyone for coming. Thank you for commenting. Chris. Where is it? Come on now. Although if you want me to break out the voice, I'll do it. He said hole. Hole. Another great informative show. Thank you. For those who are over on Twitch, thank you for coming. And good evening, all. If you see it, we saw it. I see you, Don. I will see everyone in 2 weeks. Yes, we did see that one. September 14th. Questions, anything that you want to know about me. Just, again, do not ask something that you really don't want to know the answer to. Hope to see you all later. Oh, I'll be there. Good night, all. See some of you later. Yes. I'll see you in 2 weeks. 再见。